Hi everybody, Dr. Bahanik here. I thought I would just pop on a little video to explain some of the key concepts that you're going to explore in Chapter 1 and just to say hi, and I'm happy that you're here. So the first really big and most important probably concept you're going to learn in this course and in this chapter is the sociological imagination. And the sociological imagination is a concept developed by C. Wright Mills, a famous sociologist who began to explore the ways that life is structured and how we can see patterns emerge in social life based on people's different identity markers. And I know that sounds complicated at first, so just try to be comfortable with the fact that you might not understand the concept fully until the end of the semester, but we're going to start exploring it and you'll be able to apply it throughout the entire semester. But what basically the sociological imagination allows us to do is to be able to think ourselves away from a situation and see things from a broader, more macro perspective. And macro is a concept that you will see in the first chapter that you can explore on your own a little bit. But basically, it's the big picture. So often as Americans, I'm talking because we're a US-based course, then we have this concept of individualism. We have a really strong idea that if you work hard, you can achieve success. And I will never discount that because that is true. We all have different levels of oppression and privileges in society. However, if we start to think sociologically, we start to see the impact that social structure has in determining one's life chances and opportunities. So that's what the sociological imagination allows us to do. So, for example, if we look at the example they give right at the beginning of the textbook is AIDS, right? So AIDS might not seem like a problem that should concern you or something that you should be very concerned about because in the United States, we don't have very high rates of HIV and AIDS transmission, and it doesn't affect us probably personally. However, we start to see patterns emerge, right? We start to step back and see the bigger picture here and notice that there are epidemic rates of AIDS and HIV transmission across the globe. So it's a problem bigger than ourselves, right? And so if we start to think sociologically again about this, then we can think about the different social structures that have impacted the likelihood that you might transmit HIV or AIDS depending on your social location. What I mean there is we see there are different rates of transmission among people who are from, say, Africa than in the US. So that's a pattern a sociologist would pay attention to, right? And that a mechanism there has to do with social structure. It's not all about individual choice, right? So we know that in the United States we don't have comprehensive sex education everywhere, but we do have accessibility for the most part for condoms, right? And we have some kind of reproductive rights here, and that's a concept we can trouble and think about more when we get more knowledge later in the semester. But we notice that the patterns of HIV and AIDS transmission are lower here in the United States, and so that might be one social structural factor we consider when we think about this: the availability of sex education and condoms, perhaps. So that's just one example that I wanted to talk about to get you thinking about this concept. You can think about something like unemployment. As an individual experience, that might be something that I have personally gone through, right? And often what we will do as Americans is say, well, that's your fault. You just need to work harder. Go get a job. Anyone can get a job. And that's easy, right? That's an easy way to kind of just get rid of the problem. However, when we start to notice that the rates of unemployment are hovering around 5% in the United States, and certain groups of people are more likely to experience unemployment, for example, veterans, right? Veterans experience high rates of unemployment. We know that African American people are less likely to get hired than white counterparts, right? So we start to see patterns emerge here in the data, which tells us that it's not just an individual experience, but that there are structural components contributing to the unemployment rate, right? So those are just a few examples, and I hope that helps to clarify this concept that we're going to think about so much this semester. And I'm really hopeful that once you read the chapter, do the quiz, and then watch the video and respond on the discussion post, that it will help you to understand this even more. But if you have any questions or concerns, you can always post in the open discussion forum, and I'm happy to discuss anything with you. So I'm glad you're here, and let's start thinking about things sociologically. Have a good day.